On this next episode of the process, I got to have a conversation with one of my Georgetown classmates. We're both grabbing our Master of Science in Business Analytics. And just to even comment on the program, if you're MSBA 3 and you're listening to this, I hope you know we're the gold standard. No disrespect to any other MSBA cohorts. But to be honest, all jokes aside, I've really gotten a chance to meet a lot of amazing people in this program. I mean, it's really been great. We've had two residencies where we've hung out, and just the chill nature of my cohort and the down to earthness has really caught me off guard. And honestly, I made a lot of good friends in our program. So shout out to our program director, Rhonda Remy. She really did her thing. Whatever she had to do to get us to all mess with each other like this. Yeah, and it's been great. But to talk about who I'm interviewing, Abdel Hossain is somebody I had a number of conversations with through our two residencies, and honestly, I really noticed his chill nature. The way he speaks is so cool, and him being from Bangladesh, I really just had a curiosity in hearing his story and trying to understand where that came from. And through our conversation, I got a chance to learn about the way he perceives life, which is honestly a stark different way than I view life, because he's not focused on dollar amounts. He's focused on creating the opportunity to do what creating the opportunities to do what he wants to do. And to be honest, I've taken a lot from this conversation, and just learning through the way he deals with his body is some things that I've taken in for myself. So um, I hope you enjoyed this next episode of the process. This is episode 4. And yeah, thanks for listening. Peace. Where are you at? Where have you been? And where are you going?
Wow, those are some great questions. I would say, is it okay if I answer them in reverse?
Yeah, it's completely fine.
I think where am I going is a is something that I always ask myself, especially now that I'm in this master's program. Um, it's hard to say because I don't want to I think I've seen people who have like a mentality where they're like, okay, like this is how I define success. And success is like X amount of dollars, X amount of power, X position. And to me, that feels very stifling. Like, you have this whole life ahead of you. Like, you're gonna live decades. Like, you're gonna have a lot of cool experiences. And I feel it's odd when you're like, okay, like my main goal is to make, I don't know, like $2 million a year. Like,
Yeah.
that's where I want to be at the end of my life. Because then, like, that's all you're gonna want to do. But then I think you forget to look at everything else. So as far as where I'm going, TBD, because I still haven't figured it out.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with that because I'm enjoying the process. And I think for me, like it's cool because by not pigeonholing myself, I can explore opportunities that I normally wouldn't have considered otherwise. Um, that isn't to say I don't like money. I want to make a lot of money by the time I die, but
Yeah.
like I want to make it on my own terms, if that
Yep.
makes sense. Um, where am I right now? I'd say like I am done with like the phase in my life where like people tell you like when you're growing up like okay, you got to finish high school, you got to go to college, you got to get a good job. Like you don't think about it, but you're given a roadmap from a very young age. Like like I would say even like from preschool, like your parents telling you like no, you got to go to school, like even though you don't want to, you're kind of being forced to go into this like roadmap and plot out whatever, like you like follow someone else's tune. um so I'd say I'm at the end of that stage where once you're done with that roadmap and you're like done, like you're at the end of college, you're out in the real world, right? I don't know if you've ever had that night where you're just kind of like chilling and you're like, what do I do next?
Yeah,
I don't know if you've ever had that.
bro, I've had that night several times where you're like, what am I
Yeah, like
doing?
what comes next?
Like I've done it all well, what my parents wanted me to see. Like, and I actually had a conversation with my pops about that the other day. He was like, "You've exceeded my expectations at this point. Like, everything else you do, that's on you. Don't worry about me." And that's it's a very odd place to be because I feel like from my entire life, like it's always been like, "Oh, if I don't do this, my dad's gonna be upset." But now he's like, "Yeah,
Hmm.
you exceeded my expectations." So it is a weird spot, man. Like trying to figure out like what's next, and you always
Yeah.
have to do it. But yeah, continue. My bad. I know when I
No, no, that's exactly how I feel. Because like my dad says the same thing to me. He's like, "You're like a self-made man. I didn't really think you were gonna get this far."
like, what does that mean?
So like, like I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like, okay, we made it. Now what?
Yeah,
And like I think like for me, I spent a couple years trying to figure out what that meant to me. Like what is next? Like do I go the hedonistic route, go to a bunch of parties, go traveling, just do whatever the hell I want and like
yeah,
just enjoy that? Like do I enjoy life? Or like, like do I want status, power, whatever? Like there's so many routes, right? And I can't say that I know which route I want, like I said earlier, but I decided that I want to cultivate in myself the ability to choose a route, like so that's why I'm going through this program.
yeah,
Um, like it's not just about like getting advancing my professional career. It's about like seeing what are the other opportunities. Like I wouldn't have met you, Michael, if I didn't do this program. Like I have friends who like they graduated college and then they kind of just are living life and it looks great, but after a while it just looks boring because they're doing the
yeah,
same thing. And like having the ability to even like sit on a podcast, like this is my first time ever doing that. I mean, I don't think you would get these opportunities like this if you don't sort of put yourself out there and see what else is out, what else you can do. So it's sort of that for me right now. Like I'm kind of done with this phase where everybody tells me what to do and I'm confused about what to do, and it's more like, okay, like I have the power to do what I want to do. I just need to find out what I enjoy.
yeah. And let me pause you right there just to like go in on this because I think where you've been, I think for some people like they'll connect with your story a lot. But right now, we're both in this program, and like obviously we're at a school of a lot of esteem. What, what in you like wanted to do that? Like, what was it out of like this feeling to be, at a high level place, or like what was it?
Yeah, I mean, truth be told, like if I'm paying a lot of money for an online program, I'd rather get a brand.
Yeah.
So for me, like Georgetown was actually one of my main picks when I was an undergrad. Obviously, I didn't get in, but being able to kind of say that I did end up going to what I had wanted to go to in undergrad was meant a lot to me.
Mm,
Um, and I felt that if I had gone to other programs, like there was one in University of Michigan and one in Cornell that I was looking at. They were both good, but I felt that like they were Cornell's one was more business focused. University of Michigan's I felt was more like manufacturing focused.
mm,
And the thing that really attracted me to Georgetown's was that it's near the center of like American political power, policy making, and if I ever wanted to kind of explore those routes, I have contacts now at a school that is well known for like making leaders in those fields. So that's really was like a big draw for me because maybe I want to get out and go to public policy making or into government, and Georgetown would be a great starting place to make those contacts. So
mm. So getting in, do you feel like, I mean, I'll say for me personally, bro, when I got like the acceptance, I was like ecstatic. Like
mhm.
I had a lot of things going on in life and like things were starting to go right. And then that hit and I was like, I'm that dude. Like I've like felt it, you know what I mean? And I mean, I'm not really an arrogant person 'cause I knew there's a lot of work to be done. But like, do you feel that like getting into this program, even saying now that you wanted to do this in undergrad, like is that moment for you?
Oh, hell yeah, dude. You know that meme where there's like that guy standing in a corner at a party, like holding a cup? And it's like that drawing, that guy just standing in a corner and there's all these people dancing. And
Yeah,
it's like, they don't know that I'm XYZ. Like, you know that meme? I don't know if you've seen it.
I don't think I've seen that. No.
I'll send you I'll send you the
Yeah,
format. You
yeah,
probably have.
citizen.
But it's like that with me because it's like in my head, I'm like, fuck, like I did it. Like I'm in like a really good program, like school. Like if I tell people Georgetown, they look at you a little bit differently for a second because like,
Yeah,
damn.
yeah,
And like I like that. I'm not gonna
yeah,
lie. It's a
yeah.
good
Like,
feel.
my bad. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. That
Have,
was it.
yeah. So like, have you had? I guess I'll ask this question too. Like, do people like have that moment where they're like, "Oh wow, like Georgetown." Like, I feel like I've had people like there's like a lot of positive,
Hmm.
like, "Oh my God," and then there's people that are looking at you like, "Oh, you must think this and that about yourself," like. And I don't know if they're saying that directly, but I don't know. I see the energy shift sometimes. Like, do you feel like you're running into that?
Yeah, to be honest, like I feel like that energy shift is something that bothers me because like I don't want to be perceived differently. Like I obviously earned it, but I don't want you to think I look down. So like a lot of times when I say I'm from Georgetown, I'll let them know like, oh, like it's an online program. Like I'll try to minimize it so that they don't feel like I'm someone who, I don't know. Like I do sense the energy shift. Yeah. I just try to preemptively stop that from happening, I guess. But I do sense it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll ask this, like, even with the skills, like, just to shift it a little bit, the skills we're getting, like, what is it that like attracted you to like business analytics in general? Like, what is it that you're thriving off of being in this program?
Mhm.
Like, what is it?
Yeah. So like from the start of my career, I was always attracted to more data-based classes. I'm not great at math. Like I don't do calculus. Don't ask me for any of that stuff. But like I liked SQL when I learned it in college, and I wanted to learn more because it made more sense to me than like the stuff like Java or some of the other stuff I was being taught. I was a management information systems major, so it's like a combination of business and comp sci, but like more business heavy. So they teach you like basic computer concepts and some coding, but mostly just business concepts. Um, so I had learned Java and some SQL, but honestly, like I just really didn't like development or software engineering. So when I encountered database or data centric stuff, it made more sense. And then I tried to teach myself. So my first job out of college, I was a data analyst in Florida, and they were like literally based off of Excel. Like this was like a multi-million dollar company, and all they did was run Excel stuff. Like it was wild. Um, like their most advanced tool is Microsoft Access, which is like an out of the box database you can make. You can buy at your home. It was really, really like low level.
That's
So
crazy.
they were trying to shift to a higher level and they were like trying to use SQL and stuff. And I remembered a little bit of it, but I convinced my boss to let me learn it. So then I learned, taught myself SQL, and I started using that more in my work, and I really liked that part. And then I jumped ship to a startup actually that focused in the life sciences, but that was all SQL based. And that's where I kind of like honed my SQL skills and like got more into like databases and stuff. And so like basically like I've just been data centric since the start. But I felt like I was hitting my limits because there's only so much you can do when querying using SQL. Like you need to have more of a conceptual background, like the stuff that we're learning around regressions, like understanding model designs, interpreting tests. All those stuff really does at some point come into play, as well as the tools we're using, right? Like Python, Anaconda, all that stuff. Like I really wasn't familiar with them. Like all I did was do like queries on SQL, which is pretty easy to be honest. So just having that knowledge is really helpful for me, because now I can feel more confident going into like more data centric roles or data engineering roles and say like, yeah, like, I know how to utilize GitHub to like push code or read code,
Mm-hmm.
utilize Python with SQL. Like that was something that I really wanted to learn. Um, so that's where the value is for me.
So where, so like just to even think about it, like going from the big company to the startup, like obviously, I think like the big company, I can see how they're a little closed minded because like after success for a while and a lot of money, you get stuck to what works.
Yeah.
Like you go to a startup, what is that energy like there? You just learned SQL, like What are they wanting out of you in that role?
Yeah, I mean, I think in a startup, you have a lot more independence, and with it, like power, if that makes sense. Like what you say really sometimes matters, because there might be only five of you guys in the whole company. So being in that position, I had a lot of like imposter syndrome because I wasn't that experienced. And these guys were like looking at me like I was working with multi-billion-dollar companies and helping them implement software. And I was like, shit, like I literally learned some of this concepts like 5 months ago.
Jesus.
So it was like kind of like a make or break moment for me because it's like, if I lose this role, then that means like, like I got to start from the bottom again. So like I worked hard. Like I would be working 12, sometimes 15 hours weeks, 15 hours days to just get myself successful.
Mm.
But that isn't to say like that's normal. It's also the company was pretty disorganized. So that was the flip side. Like you have more power, but that means everyone above you has more power as well. So if some guy in marketing has an idea that makes no sense, there's not a lot of people that can stop him because there isn't a lot of checks or balances that you'd have in a larger organization. So it was pretty disorganized. I'm at a new company right now, but it really taught me my own value because I was able to power through and teach myself and become like a respected, part like team member. But I also learned like what not to look for in startups, like what to avoid, like what to recognize as red flags. So it was a really bad 2 years, but I learned a lot from those 2 years.
So to go in more on your past, like, tell the people where have you been, where you're from, things of that nature, man, because I think you have an extremely unique story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually born overseas, in Bangladesh, which is a country right next to India. So when I was 6, we moved here. I actually remember I have like the memory in my brain of when my dad told me we were moving to the States. I wasn't happy. I was watching Lion King and he was like, "Hey, we're moving." And I was like, "What? Doing me dirty right now, Dad." Um, no, dead ass. Like
Like,
the
bro,
thing with
what?
the thing with like I didn't realize about the states is you guys have better cable because over there like we would get like bootleg Lion King, right? So like
What?
you would get it on cable, but like they wouldn't show you the full movie. So for like till I moved to the US, I never got to see the ending of Lion King. Like it would always end randomly.
What?
Yeah, dude, it was wild. Like I Mufasa dying was a plot twist to me.
Bro, this is a wild. I never would have thought, bro. I didn't even know that like other countries like knew about like Lion King and like Disney. That's a very this is like shocking.
Oh,
Like,
bro.
oh, you were shook when Mufasa died, bro.
Oh,
You
you have no idea, man. Like it was wild. And then I was like, what happens next? Because it would always like it. They showed it once, and then it ended with Simba running away. So like I just thought that was the end. Like
were, bro.
Mufasa died and Simba runs away. Lion King's over. The real Lion King was Scar all along. So that was cool coming to the States and like actually finishing the movie. But yeah, so I moved to Upper Darby, Pennsylvania, which is like a suburb of Philly. And then I was there for a few years. And then basically I was like bouncing around for a couple of years. Like I would move like once every 2 years. I think I did that like 4 or 6 times. Yeah, 4 or 6 times. Before I finally like settled in Delaware. Well, like my family did. And then, like I kind of just grew from here. 1 second. I kind of just grew from there. And yeah, so then I went to college in Delaware and I decided that I did not want to live in Delaware any longer than I had to. So I moved immediately to like the farthest state I could think of, which was Florida. And yeah, and then I went out and was in Florida for a few years. And then I moved to Philly for a few more years because as much as I love Florida, I just didn't see a lot of personal growth happening there for me. So I moved to Philly and then now I'm back in Delaware, ironically.
So what's your opinion if like in terms of just like culture, like American culture, Bangladesh culture, what how do
Yeah.
you view it? Is one better than the other or is there give and take?
I mean, I wouldn't say one is better than the other. It's like different, like you don't compare like I don't know, like you can't compare like Chinese noodles to like pasta, right? Like they're both very different, but they're both good. And that's the way I see it. But the thing is like if you go over there, there's like a big class divide. So like if you hang out with kids that are like upper middle class or above, it'll be like you're in the States because they always come to the States. Like they dress American, they watch American movies, like they literally know references. Every reference you'll make, they'll catch. So it's almost like you're like just hanging out with Americans in another country. But then if you go to like middle class and lower, then like there's a culture shift, right? Like they don't have as much exposure to like American stuff. So then they are a little bit more different. So like it really depends on who you hang out with. But
Hmm.
yeah.
Hmm. That's, I think for me as a person, I'm like, I'll say this, bro, I'm grateful to have these conversations because, like, before I was telling you, man, like, I really haven't been exposed to these things. I mean, exposed to people from Bangladesh or, really all the countries in Asia, like, I haven't really met all the different cultures.
Yeah.
And definitely through speaking to you, man, that's something that I've realized, like, I need to, like, I need to keep my eyes way more wide open in terms of who's out there because, I went to HBCU, majority
Hmm.
black. And, for a second, you think that's what the world is. And then you meet somebody and then you hear about even something as simple as you tell them you're going through Ramadan. And that's just a whole different, it's just a shift in like me thinking of how people operate. And I think, I highlight that to say like that's just a part of my process. I hope 5 years from now I look back and I'm like, okay, I have a better understanding of the world.
Yeah,
Um,
dude. Yeah. You should. I once talked to a guy from Taiwan. He was a black man who ended up moving to Taiwan and marrying someone there.
yeah.
And it was really interesting because he had mentioned how in Taiwan they'll just say they'll like put up signs for like English tutors and they'll want certain types of people to tutor. So in one sign it was like only accepting Americans and like the subtext was like white Americans. So he was a little offended and he went to his friends like, dude, I can't believe in Taiwan they have those types of racial. And the guy was like, no, like you count as white American in Taiwan. Like they don't treat you different because of your skin color. They treat you different on your nationality. So if you were to go there, they would just see you the same as they would as a white American. So your like whole perception changed because like he was telling like his whole perception changed because he was like, people don't really see me as a black man. They see me as an American.
Mm-hmm.
So like, those types of experiences are really, really interesting. Like I love going to another country because they'll see me as American too. And you kind of see that difference and that shift in how you're treated.
Yeah. Is it so as you probably travel more than me, do Americans have a good like look around the world currently, or is it like oh you're American? Like, type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I haven't been to like Iran or like these countries where like we're like actively beefing with, but um, yeah, I'd say like most people are very open. Like if you're a tourist, you look like a tourist. So I've been lucky enough to go to countries where they are open to those types of people from other cultures. So it's been very easy for me. Like I went to Thailand, which I'd recommend going if you've never been. They're very friendly and open. And like they just treat you very nice. So like I never got a bad vibe there. I was always welcomed wherever I went. And in most places, yeah, like they love it when you try to learn their culture. That's the biggest thing they have. Like any country you go to, if you say a couple of words in their language or try to make an effort to understand what is or isn't appropriate, it really means a lot, I've seen to those people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really interesting, man. I definitely next time I leave out the country, I need to make sure I take time to talk with the people there because that's something like as I've been getting older, I really need to wipe away, like I said earlier, this level of ignorance, bro. Because I'll go somewhere and then I'll look and I'll be like, oh wow, like people really live differently. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I think, but I realize there's like a beauty in it though, like a difference in lifestyle. Because there's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of things, with us, like even like this idea, this capitalistic mindset that I kind of have, like of like, oh, let me grind and like get into this top school because that's kind of why I chased it. It's kind of incorrect. It's flawed, even though it may bring success. It's not something that's bringing me the most peace, And I've seen in other places, like, bro, like peace is the focus, like
Yeah.
that's, I don't live a peaceful lifestyle. So like my lifestyle is like moments of peace and then chaos.
Hmm.
And so, I mean, I'm gonna lead it to this last question, man. I asked you this before at Georgetown, but you got to get it on tape for the podcast. What's something you would tell your future self? I know earlier you said necessarily don't know what it is, but you're walking. But what would you tell yourself, your future self? What would you tell your future self 5 years from now?
Is it okay to give the same response they gave in
Oh
Georgetown?
yeah, yeah. Of
All right,
course, they haven't seen it.
all right, cool. Stretch. Just stretch, bro. Stretch as
Stretch,
much as you can. Listen to your body and keep it good.
bro. That's why. Can I get some background on the stretching? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I think like, you know, at the end of the day, like it's great making a lot of money, but if I'm not listening to my body, like if my body's like all shriveled up from working, pushing it hard, then I'm not taking care of the biggest thing, which is myself. So in my head, it's like, like I don't know if you stretch in the morning or at night, but I really like those moments where I can just stretch my body, feel like the muscles kind of expanding or compressing, and just get a sense of where I am, like my physically and mentally. So I think it's important to always just stretch and just like have those moments where you can kind of just focus on yourself.
So you're really big on being present, like
Yeah.
in life with people. That's
Yeah.
definitely something hard for me because I have a very active mind. So I can be even at Georgetown, bro. I was in the room,
Mhm.
everybody's talking, I'll like phase out and just be somewhere else. But like for you, do you feel like you have those phase out moments? Or are you just usually in lock with people?
Oh no, I always phase out. Like in my head, like it's something I've had to teach myself because I was always planning like 7 or 8 steps ahead. Like, okay, like once I do this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to do. But then like, I don't know if you've ever had those moments where you kind of look back at memories in the past and like, you have FOMO, like you wish you were there, you wish like, and I noticed a pattern for me was like, I was always so focused and driven at doing stuff. Like I didn't really enjoy this or enjoy that, or like I didn't really make that connection at that moment when I could have. So it's something that I've kind of tried to be better at, which is like, okay, like, yeah, this is just a program for a year and a half. After that, we'll probably all go our separate ways. But, I want to be able to look back and say, like, yeah, like in that year and a half, I met all these cool people, even if it was for just an instant. And, I enjoyed that moment. Like that moment was fun. And I can honestly say it was. So
Yeah, and that's real, bro. That's why, like you said earlier, bro. Like it's really great to like be in this program and be around people. Like I remember like talking to you in the first residency, bro. Like I was like, bro, this is just a chill guy. Like I'm just like interested, like, bro.
thank you.
I'll be honest, like I want to pull up and hang out with you, which is something I'll probably talk to you offline. And I'm just like grateful, bro. Like a year and a half ago, if I'd have looked at my life, I wouldn't. I did not think I'd be in this position. So it's really like I really treat it as a blessing to even be able to have this conversation with you on this in this medium. So thank you, bro, for being here on this podcast, and then just thank you for being a chill person, good person, because in life it's not a lot of people that just genuinely I can genuinely be like, yo, that guy's cool. Like it's not too
Dude,
many.
thank you. No, that means a lot. I appreciate it when others like kind of like recognize the things that I care about. And I think you do a really good job of you're a really good podcast host. Let me just say, like you really caught on to things really quickly.
I
So
appreciate that, man.
no, man, like I'm kind of impressed. Not a lot of people catch that very quickly. So
Yeah, man. I'm like right now in this moment, like, am I asking the right questions? Everything. I mean, and I think through each episode, especially this one, it's like this is a part of the process. Like,
yeah,
so, so it's been great, man. Again, man, like I'm really wishing you the best in life. I know you're gonna get whatever you want. I'll say this to anybody listening. I definitely think Abdel is somebody that he'll be the guy. Like, if you work for him, you're gonna love the fuck out of him.
no, thanks, dude.
Like seriously, like I'm not just saying that. It's just I'm somebody that watch people a lot, and I know like the kind of people want to work for, and I definitely think that's going to be you as time goes on. So, with that, that's been this episode of The Process with Abdel Hossain. Thank you for listening. If you like this, please hit the like button. If you didn't, still hit the like button. No, I'm just kidding. But thank you for listening, and we're out. Peace.